Genesis, born from the Genova Project G, led by Dr. Hollander. During his upbringing in Benora, Genesis would become friends with Angel Healy. It was also around the same time where Genesis would become envy of Sephiroth, where he and Angel would travel to Midgard, where they would join Soldier, eventually rising through the ranks and becoming Soldier First Class, also becoming Sephiroth's only friends. However, one day during a sparring session, Genesis would suffer a shoulder wound. Despite thinking it would heal, the injury would trigger his genetic degradation. However, Genesis would go rogue, assuming that Dr. Hollander could heal him of his degradation. But months later, he would be tracked down by Zack Fair, but would summon Bahamut before leaving Zack to defeat his summon. Genesis would confront Sephiroth in Nibelheim, where he would reveal Sephiroth's past, obtaining a sample of his cells to cure his degradation, but Sephiroth would refuse and leave him to rot. Within 4 years, Zack would track Genesis down to the undergrounds of Benora, where he would absorb natural materia, where he would transform into his avatar form. After a prolonged fight, Zack would defeat Genesis, which would also cure him of his degradation, but using what strength he had, Genesis would once again do battle with Zack one last time, which would result in him being struck down. Afterwards, the two would resurface, where Zack and Cloud would set off to Midgard. Afterwards, Genesis would be recovered by Shino troops, but his fate after that remains unknown. Qrow Brandolin was raised in a band tribe alongside his older sister Raven Brandolin. In order to counter Huntsman, the two would be sent to Beacon Academy when they were the right age, where they would be teamed up with Tai Yang and Summer Rose. At some point, Qrow and Raven would become a part of Ozpin's circle, where he would grant the two abilities to turn to birds, and also tell him about the true threat only known as Salem. Years later, after the fall of Beacon, Qrow would keep a close eye on Ruby Rose after she had awakened her silver eyes. This would also be around the same time where he would intercept a fight with Tyrion, who had been assigned to capture Ruby Rose. However, by the end, Qrow would be injured and injected by a small sample of Tyrion's venom, but the following morning, he'll be incapacitated after being airlifted to Mistral and treated for his injury. Afterwards, Qrow would lead Team Ranger to Haven Academy, but this would be short-lived when on one night, Raven would lead the attack on Haven, where he would temporarily do battle with his older sister. Afterwards, he and Team Ruby would successfully prevent the fall of Haven. 2 weeks after the attack, Qrow and Team Ruby would set off to Atlas, but after stealing an airship and landing in Atlas, they would immediately be arrested after taking out a swarm of Grimm. During the battle on Mantle, Ironwood would reveal the existence of Salem. Moments after this, Robin Hill would be attacked by Tyrion, but this would be a setup to ambush Tyrion, who would be quickly defeated. During his transfer back to Atlas, James Ironwood would declare martial law. However, Tyrion would take advantage of this, where he would crash the airship, where Qrow would do battle with Clover until teaming up with Tyrion, whereas their combined efforts would get the upper hand on Clover, whereas Aesop would be impaled by Tyrion using Qrow's weapon to frame the Huntsman. Afterwards, Qrow and Robin would be arrested, where their journey continues. Well, what's up, Winter Hero, with a match that I've been interested in looking into, but since I forgot to edit in the last time, this match was requested by the viewer Noah Hicks, so thanks for the idea, Noah, who requested for me to put the first class soldier Genesis against the Huntsman Qrow Brandolin. Now, when it comes to Genesis, all of his research will come from his fight with Cloud Strife after he was picked up by the Shinra military. As for Qrow, I'll only be taking his showings by the end of Volume 7 since he really doesn't do anything impressive in Volume 8. So, with that said, let's start by comparing and contrasting these two physically. By the time of his defeat at the hands of first-class soldier Zack Fair, Genesis would be a 25-year-old man, staying around 6'2". Due to being enhanced by Genova cells, Zack granted him enhanced strength, speed, durability. As far as strength goes, he easily overpowered Angeal, trade blows, and stalemated Sephiroth. However, with a slight grain of salt, Sephiroth wasn't going all out, only one to test Genesis. Speaking of which, Genesis is shown to be a match for Zack Fair, who himself temporarily trade blows with Sephiroth. and cut a metal door apart with a single swing. Durability wise, he's gone several rounds with Zack Fair. However, as mentioned by Dr. Hojo, unlike Sephiroth, who's a much more stable specimen, Genesis is the most durable, since a single shoulder wound was enough to trigger his genetic degradation. As far as speed goes, his speed has been enhanced to keep pace with Sephiroth and Zack Fair. Despite his genetic flaws, he had best skills above Zack Fair, but clearly below avid children Cloud Strife and first class soldier Sephiroth. By the end of Volume 7, Qrow would likely be in his early 30s, staying around 6'2", well into his prime. As far as strength goes, he's very strong, shown when he stunned Tyrion with a punch without his aura, blade lock with his older sister Raven, who scales to Cinder, and cuts through large Grim with a single swing of his scythe. He should also scale to characters like Tyrion and a non-main Winter. Speed-wise, he kept pace with fast opponents such as Tyrion, who managed to move faster than RWBY, who herself, with the use of resemblance, can move faster than most characters, such as Roman. When it comes to durability, Qrow is pretty tough. He's resisted Tyrion's venom, taken dust-enhanced blows from Hazel, and seemed fine after being slammed into the ground that formed a crater by Winter. However, with a mild grain of salt, Qrow was noticeably holding back during his fight with Winter. When it comes to Genesis and Qrow physically, strength-wise, I more favor Genesis due to having better feet to go off of. Speed-wise, I'll give to Qrow since he scales Tyrion, who also scales above RWBY, who moves faster than most huntsmen can see. Durability, I'll give to Qrow by default. Despite Genesis being able to take a punch, the more damage he takes over time, the more his combative performance will begin to decrease, while Qrow can take a punch, but can still fight at a tip-top level. Now, before anyone brings up the fact that Genesis is enhanced and will be able to pressure Qrow on the back foot, yes, you are correct, but Qrow is shown to take a great amount of physical and magic damage from the likes of Hazel, Winter, and Tyrion. So I give Qrow the very slight edge in physical capabilities. Genesis has only one weapon. His sword is known as Rapier. The Rapier is a broadsword with a rapier style handle. A unique function that the blade has is the ability to allow Genesis to fuse his magic with the blade itself to strengthen his attacks. Qrow's weapon is dubbed the Harbinger. The Harbinger takes on several settings. Its main setting is a greatsword, second is a pair of shotgun barrels, though what dust rounds Qrow uses is unknown, and its final form takes on the form of a scythe. Now, for those who have seen Season 1 knows that this is a similar comparison between Zack's Buzzsword and Blake's Gamble Shroud. Genesis' Rapier does hold a quality advantage due to his ability to fuse his magic with the blade itself. However, Qrow's quantity advantage gives him more combative options to delay the inevitable and switch up his approach. His shotgun setting will allow him to give distance, if not maybe allow him to get a few lucky shots in. And his scythe has overall better range, so I give Qrow the edge in weapons. Unlike other member soldiers who use materia, Genesis, on the other hand, took the opposite route, instead preferring to use his own destructive magic. But he does prefer to use fire spells. He can send off a volley of fireballs to lock onto opponent's location. His limit breakers consist of Dancing Sword that unleashes a quick barrage of sword strikes. Magical Swords summons a circle of energy swords to stab into an opponent. Flash sends off a storm of projectiles. Twister Strike allows him to close the distance between his opponent. And lastly, his most strongest limit breaker is dubbed the Apocalypse Blast that deals out massive amounts of damage to all opponents in his range. Due to his genetic makeup, Genesis could also reveal a Black Angel Wing for better flight and mobility. Just like all other huntsmen, Qrow has Aura and Semblance. Aura is a manifestation of one's soul to heal them, buff their attacks, or even dampen damage. However, this ability must be activated and isn't a passive ability. His Semblance, on the other hand, is dubbed Misfortune. Misfortune is a passive ability, and just like how it sounds, brings bad luck to Qrow. I really don't think I have to go much into detail about this. Aside from that, just like with Raven, Qrow was also granted the ability to shapeshift into a Corvid. Well, to be honest, I really don't know how to break this down. Qrow has a really odd and strange semblance that it's hard to say how it will play a factor in this fight. Now, could it play a factor? Maybe. But again, to me at least, this ability more seems to affect Qrow rather than his opponent. But this also highly depends on the environment. But moving on, Genesis overall has Qrow beat in both quantity and quality. Genesis have better range abilities and they pack a much more bigger punch. So I give Genesis the edge in magic and special abilities. Just like all of my previous matches involving characters that use weapons, I'll be using Star Wars Lightsaber Fine Forms to better analyze and illustrate a combatant's approach to combat. By the time of becoming Soldier First Class, Genesis will be a well-rounded swordsman. Due to his envy of Sephiroth, Genesis will be a master of Form 4 Taro and Form 5 Genso. A Taro, known as the Aggression form, trains the user to use acrobatics and aggression to overwhelm an opponent. However, the form isn't well designed to use in close quarters combat. Genso is developed to train a user to block before immediately counterattacking with a devastating assault. As tactician, Genesis' main and only tactic is to go all out from start to finish with everything that he has. And even then, should he find himself in a corner, he simply adds more power into his assault until his opponent is defeated. By the time of becoming a huntsman, Qrow will be proficient in Form 4 Taro and Form 5 Xian/Genso. A Taro, known as the Aggression form, trains the user to use acrobatics and aggression to overwhelm an opponent, but isn't well designed to use in close quarters combat. While Form 5 trains a user to either block or evade before immediately counterattacking with devastating assault. As an overall tactician, Qrow takes a frontal assault using acrobatics and aggression mixing with his assaults with melee combat. However, his hand-to-hand skills are unknown, but he hasn't shown any skill in Taekwondo or boxing. Both Genesis and Qrow are well-rounded combatants, but one Genesis is a bit more going at them. Starting off with Taro, I'll go with Qrow since his is more versatile and acrobatic. Now that's not saying that Genesis is at a major disadvantage or anything. Between their experience as the forms, Genesis easily has more experience due to having to go himself Sephiroth as a training partner. When it comes to Genso, I'll give it to Genesis. His attacks are boosted by the aid of his magic fused with his blade, which hit back much more harder. As overall combatants, it's a bit of a toss-up. Qrow's acrobatic assault would seem good on paper, but Genesis' all-out assault would pressure Qrow more, and it really doesn't help that Genesis had the best swordsman as a training partner. Sure, Qrow's assault would allow him to get some early hits in, but when Genesis starts applying his magic, it's something that Qrow would have to power through as the fight goes on. So I give Genesis the very slight edge in combat skills and tactics. Let's just say that it takes place during the Battle of Mantle, where the Aesops have gotten a report about a black-winged angel that had been spotted in Mantle after everyone had been ordered to evacuate. Meanwhile, Genesis was busy taking out a swarm of Grimm. All they cared about was getting out of the cold. After all, even in somewhere like Atlas, he still wasn't welcome. Maybe he might try Mistral next. At least it'll be warmer there, better than this backwater corrupted government. But first, he must deal with this mess. Genesis thinks as he finishes off a few Saber's Grimm. That is until a centipede Grimm is shot apart by a shotgun shot. Genesis turns to see a well-dressed looking man. So you must be that winged fawn that everyone's been talking about. What now? Never mind that. If you prefer to avoid bloodshed, I'll suggest we both go our own way. Sorry, no can do. Genesis sighs out of noise, immediately closing the distance between he and Qrow, who acts faster, switching Harbinger into his great sword. Genesis turns on his heel and gets into quick strike. However, Qrow finds himself on defense, but after pairing a few strikes, Qrow manages to get in a few quick slashes across the Angel's abdomen, causing Genesis to recoil back. Genesis sends out a barrage of fireballs, but Qrow manages to deflect Genesis' projectiles, continuing their swordplay before breaking apart once again. Qrow, knowing that their swordplay will get them nowhere, decides to step up his game by switching Harbinger into his scythe. Genesis does the same by fusing his magic into his sword. When the two meet, Qrow manages to dodge and exchange, get in a few attacks of his own, with one sending Genesis lying back on one knee. Stumbling to his feet, Genesis activates his magical swords and dancing sword together, catching the huntsman off guard. Once again, following up with a flurry of sword strikes, the Angel doesn't give Qrow any time to react, but sends out a volley of fireballs, but at the last moment, Qrow turns to a bird flying up into the sky. But due to the effects of bad luck charm, a few turn around hitting Genesis, giving Qrow the time to turn back into human and dropkick the soldier. Qrow kicks Genesis into a car. Ready to give up? You're not winning this. Genesis looks up in a smug manner. Give up? Why will I give up? After all, this world needs a new hero, a position you nor your little friends are capable of. What the huntsman wasn't aware of was that Genesis had his hand raised, but it's too late as a fireball shot into him, leaving a second-degree burn. Picking up his sword, Genesis cycles through all the spells. Despite being able to react to a few, the only one that hasn't been used yet is the Apocalypse Blast. However, Qrow himself isn't falling behind. Despite the damage he has taken, which is beginning to catch up to him, much to the one-winged angel himself, the huntsman is seeing a pattern in his opponent, as well as seeing that he's beginning to slow down. On the flip side, Genesis sees that the battle has gone long enough, charges at Qrow, but much like Qrow, Genesis has adapted to Qrow's Ataru. As the two close distance, Genesis charges up his rapier with as much magic as possible, turning his sword into majestic red. When the forces meet, Qrow is sent flying back, and not missing a beat, Genesis reveals his wing and flies at the huntsman at high speed, slamming Qrow into a car, before yanking him up, but at the same time, a loud bang goes off, sending Genesis to his knees in agony. Sorry kid, but I gotta take you in. Nothing personal, right? Qrow states as he disarms Genesis of his rapier. Right, nothing personal. Once Qrow is in front of Genesis, the angel sends a point-blank fire spell into the huntsman, sending him into a wall, leaving severe burns on Qrow's upper body. As his aura finally gives out, Genesis stands to his feet, giving Qrow a smug grin before flying off into the night, leaving the huntsman to call for medical support. And with that, I declare Genesis, the Black-Winged Angel, the winner. Well, I'm not gonna lie, I knew how this would turn out, but I'll admit, this is closer than I had expected. Physically, despite his enhancements, for the majority of the fight, Genesis would remain ahead of Qrow, but it won't be around till mid-fight where Qrow begins to catch up due to Genesis' degradation. Weapons was a fairly easy one. Genesis' rapier isn't bad, but however, Qrow's Harbinger is overall better. It has better range and better options. Combat skills was a major toss-up, but as I mentioned, Genesis' sparring match with Sephiroth and Angel is just one of their many sparring matches, and as overall combatants, to keep it brief so I don't repeat myself, Qrow's best option is to attack and defend. And if that's all what Qrow could do to someone like Tyrion, what more could he do to someone like Genesis? I'm really not going to waste any time on their magic abilities. Even after Qrow's semblance is something to be taken with a mild grain of salt, it's odd, and as I mentioned, it more seems to affect Qrow rather than his opponent, leaving only his bird form and aura. And at the end of the day, Genesis overall has Qrow beat in both quantity and quality. His spells pack a bigger punch and deal more damage, and he has better flight and mobility. Now, to give Qrow credit where credit is due, if Qrow were to take advantage of Genesis' degradation early on, then he could possibly win. But there are only a handful of characters in RWBY who could do that, but I just don't see Qrow being one of them. Furthermore, his magic and physical durability advantage would keep him in the fight longer. But I digress. Does Genesis have too much going at him, or does the huntsman have what it takes to put down this Black-Winged Angel? With that said, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitter if you care about that, and I'll see y'all next time.
What do you intend to do restoring Umbrella?
To bring order and balance to this insane world of ours.
A psycho like you can't bring order or balance.
You don't seriously think a conservative mind can chart a new course for the world, do you?
Wesker! You are alive!
This is Wesker.
We last met at the Spencer estate, wasn't it? Well, Isn't this one big family reunion? I would expect you to be happier to see us.
Us?
So slow to catch on.
Jill, it's me, Chris.
What? Are you sure that's her?
The one and only.